Welcome back to Out of the Fog. Well, Dr. Erwin Warkentin is the coordinator of the Communication Studies program at MUN. Now, they've been looking into the mass media and the effects, actually, it has on the evolution of relationships in modern-day society. So what have they found exactly? Well, Dr. Warkentin is here to fill us in, of course. Welcome to Out of the Fog.
Hi, I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. So I guess before we get started into talking about modern-day relationships and how everything has evolved with social media and mass media, just tell me a little bit about this particular program.
Well, what we're hoping to do is create students and people who are going to be able to take jobs in the media for the future. We're trying to give them some of the theoretical background on what communication really is.
Part of the program, of course, is it does involve a trip over to Italy, and I know we're talking, we're talking a lot about Valentine's Day here on the show this evening. Italy, of course, is known for its romance, for its love. Part of that program, do they go over and kind of look at, I guess, the differences of a European couple and their relationship versus what we see here in our own community?
Absolutely. We do take a group of students every year to Italy, and we look at intercultural relationships and how different cultures communicate. And that certainly is one of the aspects, and one of the more shocking aspects, actually, for many of the students, that other cultures do relationships differently than we do.
So how different was it, even when you compare Italy versus, I guess, here in Newfoundland and Labrador?
Well, many of the young women have to get used to the idea of how appreciative some of the Italian men can be when they walk by.
They're a little bit more vocal.
Absolutely. They also will whistle on occasion, and we have to explain to them that no, they're simply appreciating, the way they look, and they really don't mean anything more by it, because their culture really tells them that it's okay to do that.
Right, so it's not offensive.
It's not.
It's not considered.
It's not considered to be offensive at all, and really, the Italian men will leave it at that. They're not going to pursue it because they're used to the Italian women, of course, who will just walk by them and not even give them the time of day.
I want to talk about, I guess, in terms of relationships and how relationships have changed and I guess evolved over the years, factoring in social media, which has changed so much worldwide, not just in terms of relationships. But what have you found in that sense?
Well, what we found is that we really don't understand what this new technology is doing to how we relate to one another in terms of our relationships, our romantic relationships, because all of that has changed. Mind you, in some cases, even though it does change, it stays the same kind of. Mm-hmm. And here I'm talking about people will now text to one another and they'll develop a relationship with someone that they've never seen. And they've never talked to this person. All they have is texts that they've messaged back and forth. Can
you call that a relationship? When you haven't seen somebody, you haven't actually talked to them, there's no physical contact. Could you deem that even as a relationship?
Certainly you can, because the relationship happens in your head, in your mind, as it were. You can have feelings for a person without ever having met them. We have feelings for characters on television, for example. Someone tells a really good story in a very good novel. We'll have feelings for the characters. And in the same way, we can have feelings for someone we've never actually met. An example of that would be many years ago when I got to know my wife. I met her once for a very brief time, managed to get her address, and we developed a relationship writing letters. So in that respect, it's not that much different. Mm-hmm. Just we used Canada Post back then.
Right, so you can, what you're saying is that you can, even though you're writing on a keyboard or a little, keypad, you can develop feelings through that.
Exactly.
Through writing that way.
People will start feeling things that they might not normally expect if they're writing. And one of the interesting things that we found is that there seems to be more credence to the relationship because it's in writing. Sometimes we treat how we relate to one another differently if we speak to one another face to face, or if we actually write things down.
It's interesting you say that because, you know, online, whether it's online dating or if you're just simply texting somebody, it's fallen under a lot of criticism and people saying, well, you don't really know that true person. But, you know, and you're kind of saying that, well, you do get to know that person because you are putting those feelings down on paper.
There is some masking going on, and that's kind of a technical term that we use for, you know, you put on a persona. And certainly you can do that in writing, but we do that all the time in person as well. You know, when you have people, you know, meeting in a bar somewhere, let's say down on George Street, are you really meeting that person? Well, they don't dress like that. They don't put on that sort of makeup. They may not be driving that same car every day. So in some ways, we also mask when we do things in person.
Mm-hmm. Are there any figures or stats or studies that you've looked at that can really tell actually who is online, who is dating online?
Well, the interesting thing is that there's a lot of the preconceived notions that I kind of had going into this, you know, where you think of, well, who's doing the online dating? These are desperate people, perhaps. And that really was kind of blown out of the water for me. Because I discovered that it wasn't those types of people, but the average person who dates online is a young woman between the ages of 22 and 28.
Really?
Yeah. It's one of these really surprising things that's come out, and it does vary from one dating site to the other. You know, they will have different niche markets, as it were, but I've kind of backed this up with some anecdotal evidence. I'm fortunate enough that I have a group of young women who are in my class, and I would simply ask them, well, you know, what do you think of this? And they would say, yeah, I would date online. It's something that I'm comfortable with, and I think it's a matter of these young women and young men being comfortable with the technology. They've grown up with it. It's not something new to them or foreign to them. They're simply used to relating to other people.
And do you think that has a really, you know, a big factor to play in terms of the varying generations, really, and what they're used to, you know, letter writing versus texting? And
certainly. They're used to relating to their friends via text message. And for them, this is simply a natural progression that they are going to relate to someone they have a relationship, a romantic relationship with, through text messages. One of the statistics we've come up with is the number of times people in a serious relationship will text message to one another. And it's incredible. They will message one another 20 or 30 times a day.
Okay, well, we're going to have to leave it there. I want to thank you very much for coming in this evening. And well, happy Valentine's Day to you.
Thank you very much.
We are going to take a very short break, but we'll be right back. Stay with us. We like hearing from you, so let us know what you think of tonight's show. Leave your name and number, and we may just broadcast those comments. Call us at 757-9600 or drop us an email out of the